Hello and welcome to Nationwide on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. My name is Ronke Kolawole. President Muhammadu Buhari is now in London, the British capital, on holiday. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the president departed Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport this morning. He was seen off by the Minister of the FCT, Mohammed Musa Bello, his Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari, Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris, and other senior government officials. During his 10-day working days vacation, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is to act as president. Already, a written communication to that effect has been forwarded to both the Senate President and the Speaker House of Representatives. This is in compliance with Section 145, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. And before leaving for London, President Muhammadu Buhari has met with security chiefs over security situation in the country. The meeting held behind closed doors. A statement by the public relations officer to the Minister of Defense, Colonel Tukur Gusau, indicates that in order to forestall future security incidents in Zamfara, Sokoto and Birnin Gwari axis, Operation Sharan Daji has been extended to cover up to the fringes of Niger border. The operation has recently been reinforced with more troops from the Nigerian Armed Forces, Nigeria Police and Department of State Services, and is supported by the Intelligence, Surveillance and Reconnaissance Wing of 207 Quick Response Group of the Nigerian Air Force. The joint operation, it says, has successfully arrested some suspected armed bandits and recovered arms and ammunition. Similarly, security agencies have been directed to increase patrols along Abuja-Kaduna Highway in order to address cases of attacks and kidnappings. The statement says the Minister of Defense, Mansour Dan Ali, reiterates the need for the deployment of the Nigeria Police and the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps in all areas liberated by the military in the northeast. He also requests for provision of more equipment for the armed forces in order to sustain the tempo in the fight against insurgency and other security challenges across the country. And still talking about security, Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar has reaffirmed the commitment of the Nigerian Air Force to flush out armed bandits terrorizing villages and towns of Zamfara State in its recently launched Diran Mikia operation. The Chief of Air Staff disclosed this when he inspected air assets and associated equipment deployed by the Nigerian Air Force at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport, Katsina. Here is the report.
Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar was at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport to assess the level of progress made so far by the Nigerian Air Force in its Diran Mikia operation. He expressed satisfaction with the overall conduct of the operation and stressed that the Diran Mikia operation would be sustained to put an end to the killings while protecting civilians in Zamfara State. Air Commando of the Nigerian Air Force, Ayola Jolasimi, revealed that the ground soldiers in Gusau, Zamfara State, serve as the backbone of the entire operation, while the Nigerian Air Force provides them with aerial support. The Diran Mikia operation was launched by the Nigerian Air Force on Monday, following President Muhammadu Buhari's directive to deploy strong mixed force comprising the Army, Air Force, Police and the Civil Defense Corps to launch counter-attacks on armed bandits in Zamfara State. In Katsina, Bishir Bala, NTA News.
And to other issues now, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has continued the inspection of federal government projects across the country with a visit to the Abuja Rail Mass Transit Project. Anthony Forson reports.
The Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed began his inspection at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Station of the light train terminals. Transport Secretary of the Federal Capital Territory, Kaode Okpeifa, and Anthony Agbakogwa gave the minister a full brief and scope of the project, which was conceived in 1977 as part of the Federal Capital City's development plan to facilitate transportation.
The people who thought of Abuja thought well, and also they envisaged all this when the capital moved out of Lagos.
The current project, which covers lots 1A and 3, is a stretch of 45.243 kilometers out of the entire 292-kilometer distance of the lots 1 to 6. Awarded in 2007, work commenced in 2009 with an original completion date of 2011. It was revised in 2012. Then, when the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration came on board, the project was again revised in 2017, which saw its completion barely 1 year after. This was made possible by the prompt releases of funds. With this fully functional, passengers to and from the airport need not go through any difficulty.
The train is good quality, and then the timing is right on spot. I mean, I'm really surprised I have something like this happening in Nigeria. I've only ever boarded trains in the UK.
I thank the government for doing that for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
The Information and Culture Minister, accompanied by an array of journalists, took a ride from the airport terminal to the metro station in the central business district of the city. Having stopped over at Idu, they also had a bus ride round the rolling stock depot, which comprises 21 buildings for operational control, training center, maintenance crew staff quarters, comprehensive maintenance building, workshop, washing bay, service sliding complex, among others. At the metro, the minister tried his hands on ticketing.
To the airport that this train is arriving in schedule. Thank you very much.
Briefing newsmen after the facility tour, the minister said the federal government is committed to its campaign promises to Nigerians.
The truth is that priority areas of this administration, that is security, the economy, and the fight against corruption, are delivering. This has left the opposition in the lurch. Hence, they resort to fake news and hate speeches. They fan the embers of disunity and violence. They believe they could use this as a weapon against the administration. But Nigerians are too smart for them. Nigerians know the truth. And this is why we continue to showcase the achievement of the administration in all the areas, the economy, infrastructure, fighting corruption, and the fight against security.
With an initial 5,000 passenger capacity per day, its capacity will be expanded to 350,000 in the next 15 months. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
And still on transportation issues, President Muhammadu Buhari has charged the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW, to avoid bickering and contribute their quota to national development. The president said this in a message to the celebration of the 40th anniversary of the union in Abuja. John Yaku has details.
Established in 1978, the National Union of Road Transport Workers has attained the membership of over 1 million across the country. In its 40 years of existence, the union has impacted on the nation's economy through transportation and social mobilization. While congratulating the union for the feat achieved so far, President Muhammadu Buhari, through the Minister of State for Labour, thanked the union for its support in its fight against corruption, insurgency and economic transformation.
The trade unions as partners in progress should, as a matter of necessity, support my government in this Herculean task of driving the process of instilling discipline, transparency, accountability, and patriotism amongst Nigerians.
The sustained fight by the President against insurgency in the Northeast and other security challenges facing the nation deserve our collective admiration.
On the current rehabilitation of federal roads across the country, some union members called for more efforts.
We appeal to them to put more effort, more essentially Lokoja Bini Road.
It's yielding positive result, but it's not met the desired expectation.
There were goodwill messages from the governors, labor unions, and Federal Road Safety Corps.
It's my hope that every member of the union will continue to strive to make our roads safer.
The union has produced 13 presidents since its establishment 40 years ago. In Abuja, John Yabu, NTA News.
And to other matters now, as part of efforts by the Enugu state government to alleviate the sufferings of the less privileged in the state, wife of the governor, Monica Ogwai, has empowered some men and women in the state through her pet project, Ugo Torch Foundation. Ijoma Ugoke has details.
The PET project is aimed at touching the lives of people, especially the less privileged women in the rural areas. Items distributed include grinding machines, sewing machines, and tricycles. Mrs. Ugwai urged the beneficiaries to utilize the opportunity offered by the program to better the lives and that of their families.
Life of our brothers and sisters. To show our brothers and sisters the way best for us to live our lives, for us to go back to basics.
They appreciated the state government for impacting positively on the lives of the people. They thanked Mrs. Ugwai for reaching out to the downtrodden in the society. Also featured at the event is the medical outreach of the wife of the governor, where people were screened for cervical cancer, eye defect, and high blood pressure and sugar level. In Enugu, Ijobu Gweke, NTA News.
The vision, creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurial spirit of the science and technology community is all Nigeria needs to overcome some of the challenges arising from her cultural diversity to promote national security and a bright future. These were the words of the Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Ogunaya Onu, when he delivered a lecture to participants of the Executive Intelligence Management Course 11 of the Institute of Security Studies in Abuja. Justin Bem Unyi has that report.
The bond that holds culture with science and technology is strong.
Cultural values, national security, science and technology, optimizing the linkages and opportunities is the focus of Dr. Ogunaya Onu's lecture, with a message that the level of science and technology in a society directly affects the cultural values of the people. Nigeria, with over 500 ethnic groups and varied cultural values, has the challenge of efficiently managing this diversity so as to promote national security. The minister says the country's diversity can also be an opportunity for tourism to enable economic diversification, employment generation, and reduction of poverty, with a positive effect on national security. Science, engineering, technology, and innovation, he stresses, will provide the instrument for cultural transformation and maximization of national security for sustainable national development.
Strengthening the dialogue between policymakers and scientists, as well as boosting federal support for science and technology, is crucial to our national security and the prosperity of our dear nation. We know that a new Nigeria is coming. We have to start working for it.
Dr. Onu hopes the scientific and technological communities of the country will play a big role in building the new Nigeria, a country of greater peace, stability, prosperity, and security. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
You're watching NTA Nationwide. More reports after the break. Stay with us. Plans intensify towards the completion of the Lagos-Ibadan railway projects. Details of this and other reports with Elizabeth in Lagos. Hello, Elizabeth.
And thanks for joining us in Lagos. Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi has assured residents that work on the Apapa corridor of the Lagos-Ibadan rail project will commence next week. The minister made this known during a courtesy visit to the governor of Lagos State, Akinwumi Ambode, at the State House, Ikeja. Nusa Usula reports.
Addressing State House correspondents after a strategic meeting with the governor and his team, the Minister of Transportation said that contractors would move to site to continue the Lagos-Ibadan rail project from Apapa as part of efforts to bring about permanent solution to the perennial gridlock in the axis.
The federal government awarded the contract of that Tinkan or Oshoki or Jota road. What I'm trying to do there is to get a good road to evacuate cargoes, but it will be faster with the rail. So while we are working hard to ensure that the rail is delivered by this year ending, the federal government has also awarded the contract to deal with the road from Apapa and Tinkan to enable us to evacuate cargoes freely. And that is an addition to the rail.
In his response, Governor Akinwumi Ambode commended the federal government for its efforts in finding lasting solutions to the Apapa crisis.
What you are going to see, you see additional construction works taking place in Lagos. We are going to have almost like about 10 overpasses that is going to go under construction, and you will see that a lot of construction work will start also from this Apapa axis and to some of our roads.
The federal government, at the end of the last Federal Executive Council meeting, had approved 72.9 billion naira for the reconstruction of the road from Apapa to the toll gates on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. In Lagos, Nusa Usula, NTA News.
Low patronage characterized the commencement of 2018 airlift of intended pilgrims to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia from Lagos. Musa Tolia reports that a total of 320 intended pilgrims made the inaugural flight that took off from the Murtala Mohammed International Airport.
Hajj is the fifth pillar of Islam, obligatory for Muslims who can afford it. This spiritual exercise is undertaken in the 12th month of the Islamic lunar calendar. Those who have the means indicate their intention by approaching the respective state pilgrims board to be included among the fortunate faithful that will embark on the spiritual journey. This was the situation at the Hajj camp in Lagos when the first batch of intending pilgrims, numbering 320, went through the due processes of documentation ahead of the airlift to Saudi Arabia.
I think it's actually more organized than before, and it's not delayed as it used to be. It's better than last year.
We have already carried out all the processes. The biometric has gone well. The visa, everything has been put in place.
The intended pilgrims were taken through the list of items prohibited in Saudi Arabia by the Lagos State Commissioner for Home Affairs, Abdulakim Abdulatif.
People have been given the right orientation spiritually, and they have been urged to be good ambassadors. We have worked on our challenges last year. Apart from that, we are going with 25-member medical personnel.
Boarding time attracted supplication session by scholars from the State Pilgrims Board. Not less than 2,001 intending pilgrims from Lagos State are expected to be airlifted in 4 different flights in the next 4 days.
The Standards Organization of Nigeria, SON, has commenced a crackdown on unfortified food products across the country to ensure compliance with the International Food Fortification Program. SON enforcement team has seized unfortified bags of sugar from various markets in Lagos. Director General of SON, Mr. Osita Boloma, said they're determined to ensure that manufacturers of flour, pasta, sugar and salt meet the minimum standard of fortification. The Director General, who was represented by Engineer Bido Bayi, noted that lack of fortification of foods leads to stunted growth and mortality. He said Inspectorate and Compliance Department of the agency is conducting massive evacuation of the defective products which are smuggled into the country.
Any sugar bag that is not fortified with vitamin A is removed from market because it's a requirement of the standard that these vehicles, food vehicles must be fortified before they are imported into this country. That's why we're here and we're taking them away because they are not fortified. And we are warning the people here, the dealers, not to patronize anybody who has smuggled any sugar into the market. Make sure it has the sign of the eye, which is the side logo showing that is vitamin A fortified.
Mr. Boloma said SON is working with the International Agency for Food, Drugs Administration and Control NAFDAC, the Consumer Protection Council CPC, and international partners to ensure compliance with the fortification program. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Sean Baker, and Nigerian food processing and nutrition leaders recently met and pledged collective action to achieve adequate fortification of Nigeria's major food staples by 2020. And that's the contribution from Lagos this hour. Over now to Ronke for more on Nationwide.
Thank you, Elizabeth. The Presidential Amnesty Office and the United Nations Institute for Training and Research UNITAR in Nigeria are planning to train Niger Deltans in different fields in order to create jobs and generate wealth for the region and the country at large. To this end, a memorandum of understanding was signed in Abuja as part of the procedures leading to the success of the project, which is built to last for a 3-year period.
The partnership with UNITAR will improve positive imagery, bring exposure to the region, since UNITAR will expose its international network to place our delegates on international engagement platforms that will in turn effect less dependency on our national labor market.
What this collaboration is bringing is getting youth graduates in the Niger Delta, preparing them for employability, and of course taking them to the right sectors and so on.
Joseph Johnson reports that the Amnesty Office assured UNITAR that trainees, cadets and students will be selected according to agreed criteria, best practices, and we provide funding for the program as well as focal persons as required. 3-day peace and security meeting ends in Jos. Ruth is standing by with this story and other development from that zone. Hello, Ruth.
Hello, Ronke. Good evening and welcome to Jos. The 3-day conference on peace and security has ended in Jos with a challenge on all stakeholders to bring an end to rampant cases of impunity and retributive justice with regards to crime and criminality if peace is to be sustained. This is part of the communique issued at the end of the conference, organized by the Plateau State Peace Building Agency in collaboration with the U.S. Institute of Peace. Ashazi Gopep reports.
The conference took a critical review of the peace and security architecture of the state, as well as profile practical solutions on the way forward. Structured into panel discussions and plenary, open and frank discussions between stakeholders and conflict parties suggested proactive and realistic measures to reduce or mitigate the return of violent conflicts in the state.
As women, we can only inculcate some certain values to children at a certain level. After that, it becomes a communal problem and a communal responsibility for the society.
The communique also endorsed the roadmap to peace document, calling on government at all levels to give the implementation of the document the necessary support it deserves.
The conference unanimously called on the state government to demonstrate the political will
to implement all the recommendations of some white papers and reports of past or previous commissions of inquiry into violent conflicts in the state, as this would add value to the peace-building process and would help to mitigate against the return of violent conflict.
As a collective task, relevant stakeholders also resolved to synergize towards developing practical strategies to further complement efforts aimed at resolving and sustaining peace and security in Jos. Ashezigo Pep, NTA News.
The new General Officer commanding 3 Division, Nigerian Army, Major General Benson Akinroluyo, has assumed the mantle of leadership with a commitment to upholding the territorial integrity of the country. This was at the handing and taking over ceremony held at the 3 Division headquarters in Jos. Bilkisu Nuhu has details.
This brief but significant ceremony signals the change in baton and a continuation in the leadership of the division towards a professionally responsive Nigerian army. Major General Benson Akinroluyo, while commending the outgoing GOC for the landmark achievements recorded in the division, promised to cooperate with officers and men.
I can see how he has moved the development forward. The tempo you have attained, please maintain it, and with your support, we'll just move the whole team to a higher height.
Outgoing GOC, Major General Benjamin Ahanatu, urged them to maintain the fighting spirit, morale and good works they have been known for, noting that his stay at the division had been memorable and eventful.
I must urge you, you are having a new General Officer commanding, you must, it's not something that you have to contest with. You must give him every cooperation that you have to give to him. Nothing less.
Earlier, the outgoing GOC had addressed officers and men of the division at the parade field with a charge on them to be steadfast, focused and dedicated to duty. Major General Akinroluyo is the 42nd General Officer commanding 3 Division in Jos. Bilkisu Nuhu, NTA News.
The Nigerian Association of Women Journalists, NAWOJ Plateau State Chapter, has a new set of leaders to run the affairs of the association for the next 2 years. Ashazigo Pep reports that Jennifer Yerima, who returned as chairman, has Priscilla Grumnan of NTA Jos as secretary.
Administering the oath of office, the oath commissioner, Mr. John Sok, charged the newly elect to strive to live up to expectation as the watchdog of the society. Speakers expressed optimism that the new elected leaders will move NAWOJ to accomplish amazing things given their wealth of experiences.
You have exhibited. I pray the NUJ national election coming up in September would be as peaceful as this. I hope that you will not disappoint these women.
I also want to use this opportunity to appreciate NAWOJ Plateau State for being the first state to organize NEC for this tenure.
In an acceptance speech, Jennifer Yerima said NAWOJ will continue to focus on service to humanity with special attention on issues that threaten the total well-being of the women folk and children, particularly the girl child.
We desire to come up with other activities that will benefit the wider society. We will require your kind attention.
Special grace of God that will put in all our best to ensure that NAWOJ gets not only to national but international level.
Other members of the ESCO includes Nenedung as vice chairman in Jos. Ashezigo Pep, NTA News.
And that's it from Jos. It's over to Kemi in our Ibadan Network Center for stories making the rounds in that zone. Hello, Kemi.
Hello, Ruth, and a warm welcome to Ibadan. 5,728 beneficiaries across 19 local government areas of Oyo State will be enrolled in the third phase of the federal government's Social Intervention Household Uplifting Program. Grace Bamidele, who was at the training for staff of a state cash transfer unit, reports that all is set for the enrollment exercise.
The two-day training exercise had in attendance the heads of units and management information specialists from 4 southwestern states, Ekiti, Kwara, Osun, and Oyo states. The sensitization and training of staff of the state's cash transfer unit, which is aimed at effective monitoring of the enrollment process, is an avenue to teach the digital process of data collection of beneficiaries of the Household Upliftment Program of the federal government social intervention.
To empower the poor and vulnerable so that we can bring them out of the poverty level, so that they can be on their own, they can sustain their own.
We know that they consider the masses as in the poor, how they feel, for them to live well, for them to be okay, to operate that.
The aim was to assist the poor and the vulnerable in the society, to raise their standard of living and to make them at par with other people in the community.
With 178 participants across the 33 local government areas in your states in Ibadan. Grace Bamdeli, NTA News.
The underperforming nature of the legislature in its constitutional functions have been described as a major contributor to the socio-economic and political developmental deficits in the country. This was the consensus of speakers at the monthly seminar of the Nigerian Institute of Social and Economic Research, NISA. Here is the details. In a paper titled The Assessment of Legislative Effectiveness for Socio-Economic and Political Development in Nigeria's Fourth Republic, the research work highlights the wide gap in the effectiveness and efficiency of the legislature due to weakness in political system, lack of autonomy, and quality of political parties, among others.
Delivering on their mandate. The question is at what cost? So if you compare their performance in lawmaking, representation, in oversight, how much money, how much naira and kobo goes into that?
Speakers were unanimous in recommending regular capacity development program, proper utilization of existing legal framework, and effective communication system as some of the way forward to improve the socio-economic and political developments in the country.
We have to develop a version of this seminar series that the public can consume.
It's important that we start to look at how we can groom and train our governors.
The seminar is the maiden edition of a 2018 series. And that's it from Ibadan. It's back to Ronke in Abuja for more on Nationwide.
Thank you, Kemi. The federal government is willing to work with development partners who share the same vision of accelerating Nigeria's growth, especially with regards to the reforms in the power sector. Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, who said this while receiving in audience the World Bank Vice President for Africa, indicates that government is willing to leverage on the expertise of the bank to not only preserve the growth achieved so far, but also sustain it. She commended the World Bank's project in Nigeria, especially the Fiscal Sustainability and Transparency Program, which has impacted positively on the nation's economy.
Reform program, which is an extremely important program to us. For us, as far as GDP growth is concerned, the one thing that's really going to accelerate growth is power. And all the things that we need to do to ensure that we can get that power sector reform package and program off the ground is really, I think, for us and for the International Economic Relations team, our number one priority at the moment really is power. How do we sort out the challenges in the power value chain? How do we leverage on the World Bank and its relationships and its wealth of experience in getting us to move this sector forward?
I wanted to come and listen to you to see how we can support Nigeria, how we can help get the Nigerian economy grow faster and achieve all your development objectives.
And for the World Bank, Nigeria is a priority as its growth is described as pivotal to Africa's development. Nigeria will in no distant time completely switch over to digital television broadcasting if the commitment being given to digital switch over by the present administration is sustained. Director, Voice of America, Amanda Bennett said this at a business meeting with management team of Pinnacle Communications Limited in Abuja. Adibola Brookslyn Sunday reports.
Pinnacle Communications Limited is one of the 2 licensed broadcast signal distributors in Nigeria. After a brief business meeting, they were taken on a guided tour of the facilities, which Amanda Bennett described as world-class based on the quality of both audio and video signals. Founder and chairman Lucky Omolua said the successes recorded so far is to a greater extent the result of the political will of the present administration.
We are Nigerians, we are going ahead and we are supporting this government. And don't forget that this analog to digital only started in earnest during the inception of this government, and we intend to pursue it like that. Gombe, we're over 75% from Gombe. We'll move to Delta, and from Delta, don't forget, as we are moving, RTS2 is moving, and also now we're collaborating, so all is well.
Covering Nigeria's 6 geopolitical zones and eventually reach more than 50 million homes and 180 million residents is one of the goals set by Pinnacle Communications. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
Stakeholders in the education sector have advocated for the integration of technology into learning in the nation's policy of education manual. Prominent among holders of this school of thought is the former Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission, Professor Peter Okebukola. Ikechukwu reports.
Blended learning entails introducing technology into instruction. According to Professor Okebukola, students' interest must be monitored and teaching blended to suit their interest. He cautioned teachers who scold students for spending much of their time on social media, urging them to teach them through the social media platforms. He revealed that a survey he conducted in Lagos State, where over 80,000 students received instruction through Facebook, recorded a huge success, calling on government to fund ICT units of public schools and train teachers for this global practice.
There are changes in technology, very rapid. So we've got to periodically organize, that's federal government, state government, everybody, organize training for the teachers.
Institutions of higher learning around the world are doing this. Makes it clear that we should pursue this and then follow it closely and incorporate this into our educational curriculum.
This is the 21st century. If you look at most of our children, they are using digital tools. But those of us who are older, we use analog tools. So teachers must be retrained and unlearn some of the things they were doing before.
As students in public schools are aware of this teaching and learning through social media,
many people do not have the chance to always meet face-to-face, but through the use of Facebook, social media, you can have your tutoring classes. You might not always have the time to always go out and meet the person who is taught you or meet the person you have to teach.
Education technology is one aspect of knowledge that must be improved upon from time to time to suit every generation in order for education to be effective. In Aba, Ikechukwu, NTA News.
And talking health, the implementation of the Patient's Bill of Rights is expected to sensitize Nigerians on their rights as they seek medical services across the country. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria today, however, suggested that all stakeholders must work to ensure that their initiative succeeds. Dennis Adegunloye has the rest of that story.
Nigeria's healthcare system continues to struggle with inadequate manpower and facilities as demand for health services rises steadily. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria believe that the initiative is long overdue and should be promoted to help in strengthening service delivery.
One of the things the Patients' Rights Bill has been able to do is to aggregate all these sections and be able to let the public know what is the right of the patient, what is the right of the healthcare provider, and when there are issues, how do they seek redress?
Considering what the healthcare space is and the multiple challenges, whether it's hard infrastructure or funding and all kinds of other things, I realize that Healthcare is something that affects everybody.
Former president of the Nigerian Medical Association, Professor Mike Ogirima, believes that healthcare providers will perform better if more funds are injected into making the working environment more conducive.
We, the healthcare providers, the health workers, are faced every day with challenges from patients.
The medical profession, in contrast to other fields, is an area where there is very little margin for error. And guests are clear that where this error occurs, it most likely will translate to loss of life or injury to patients. How healthcare providers interact with patients, in their view, is crucial to minimizing the threat of loss of life and injury.
Functioning within your code of ethics as a professional and with the oath or the pledge in various professions, once all these are complemented, the patients will have the best.
The launching of the Patients' Bill of Rights by the Vice Presidents, they believe, will provide the much-needed reorientation of Nigerians of their rights when undergoing medical services. Dennis Adignoye, NTA News.
A short break beckons. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying there. And now, political matters. Niger State Governor Abubakar Sani Bello says he has no plans to defect from the governing All Progressive Congress APC. The governor made the clarification following the defection of some governors and members of the National Assembly to the opposition People's Democratic Party PDP. In a statement by his chief press secretary, Jibrin Baba Ndache, says he is committed to President Muhammadu Buhari-led government and party ideas, emphasizing that the APC remains the only political party to rescue Nigeria from the many wrongs of past administrations. The statement also reveals that Governor Bello shares the president's vision for a new and better Nigeria, noting that there is no cause for apprehension as Niger State remains an APC state. About 546 intending programs from Adamawa State have been airlifted to Saudi Arabia in an inaugural flight for this year's Hajj. Riyanu Bala reports that Governor Mohammed Omar Jubrila was at Yola International Airport to bid farewell to the intending programs.
The 546 intending programs have undergone various screening from government agencies to ascertain their travel documents among other checks.
The system I have seen so far, to me, is very, very impressive. I only look forward that the arrangement will continue in this manner up to the last batch of the flight that's coming.
The intending pilgrims were full of joy as they are set for the spiritual journey and promise to pray for the sustenance of peace and unity of the country. Governor Muhammad Umar Jibrila, who was also at the airport to bid them farewell, called for more prayers for the development of the country. He advised them on the need to be of good conduct and respect the constituted authorities of Saudi Arabia. In Yola, Rayanu Bala, NTA News.
With an intended transformation in tourism industry capable of attracting direct investments, Benin Republic is making it open for all African countries to travel to Benin without visa requirements. The ambassador of Benin Republic to Nigeria, Madam Paulette Ajove Yekpe, made this known at it marks 58 years of independence at the embassy in Abuja. Patricia Esamiluba has that report.
Nigeria and Benin Republic share rich natural, cultural and historical ties with about 800 miles of land borders, and about 5 million citizens from both countries use the borders majorly for economic activities. With an amazing and untapped potentials in tourism attractions, Benin Republic is now ready for investors and tourists.
As much as possible, eliminate all those restrictions, ETLS, all those documentation between us. Because it's one of those things that's encouraging smuggling. If you tell someone living in, at the boundary of Ogun State and the other man living on the other side, it doesn't recognize the boundary, it doesn't recognize the documentation.
To this end, the celebration of the anniversary of the people of Benin community in Abuja in its new chancery, the ambassador says it's a great honor to mark the day, which is to show appreciation to the Nigerian government and friends.
I urge you all to continue to support government efforts by making judicious use of the boundless opportunities that exist in this country. The development and the prosperity we all crave for can only be achieved in an environment of peace and security.
Benin Republic gained her independence 58 years ago. In Abuja, Patricia A. Samiluba, NTA News.
And as the giant of Africa, Nigeria must be more committed to living up to the responsibilities of the position. This was the view of the former governor of Old Anambra State, Dr. Chukwuemeka Ezefe, at the presentation of the book, Portraits of People and Places. Joy Uzo reports.
Asabu Jom Asabokwe, land of my birth. Behold the land my cord is tethered, and where my freedom is unfettered. You can see it.
Many books have been written about Nigeria's history, her people and achievements, but only few chronicle these in poetry. That perhaps explains the turnout of scholars and prominent personalities at the presentation of the book, Portraits of People and Places in Abuja.
And I can say without equivocation that it will make a very, very exciting contribution to the collection of poems in this country.
Dr. Chukwuemeka Ezefe believes Africa can be better developed, with Nigeria playing a huge role in that regard.
We want you to go back to God and pray for the survival and progress of Nigeria.
The book reviewer, Buchi Onyegbuli, acknowledged the versatility of the author, who despite his science background is able to project the endowment of the nation and continent in poetry, an experience that the author, Emmanuel Munye, says is born out of his desire to see that the reading culture among Nigerians is revived.
He goes back in time to give you the poems about the persons and the places that he's written about. He whets the appetite enough that you would want to go and read about them if you do not know about them.
The essence of writing this book is for people to have that sense of history, appreciate people, and appreciate places too, their environment, and also to promote the reading culture, especially in these days of social media. In my growing up days, reading was a culture, and it's something I'm happy about. It has brought me where I am.
The 94-page book has 18 chapters. In Abuja, I am Joy Uzo, NTA News.
Let's talk sports with Kene Imabudike. And that's it on Nationwide this Friday. We thank you for watching. Do have a very beautiful weekend. I am Ronke Kolawole.